Leadership is more than a notch on the belt of your career ladder. It's a transformational opportunity that will turn you into a leveled up version of yourself. It will turn you into a version of yourself that is better than anything you could have ever imagined. However, it is a transformation which cannot be complete without a conscious willingness to let the process change you. And it will change you mentally, physically, spiritually, and energetically. This is something that many leaders miss. And the reason why you may read the best and latest and greatest books on leadership, you may attend well-designed leadership and executive training programs and participate in any form of coaching and still not get quite the change that you were looking for in your life and career. Like pressure turning a lump of coal into a diamond, leadership is trying to change you. However, unlike the coal, which is forced to become something more, leadership can't make you do that, become something more, without your conscious agreement. So if you want to be an amazing leader, even the best leader that your employees have ever had, then you need to begin to really lean into the transformation and surrender to the journey. If you do, if you surrender to the journey, then your life, the lives of your friends and families, and those that you lead will never, ever be the same. As soon as you consciously agree, you'll discover that you will feel more centered and grounded. This happens because you will have a different relationship with your leadership role and the experiences that you have on a daily basis. To add to the positive benefits, the yumminess, if you will, for you, there's going to be a ripple effect into the lives of your employees as well as those they touch. Matter of fact, your impact may be felt 3 levels deep. And the same thing will happen with your colleagues, and even as you start to manage up the organization. If you don't lean into the transformation, then you're subject to be impacted by negative statistics, such as being among the 60 to 80% of leaders who report feeling worn out at the end of the day, or maybe being one of the reasons that 67% of employees aren't engaged. If you have the courage to let leadership transform you, then many of the negative statistics around leadership will come tumbling away. I've had the privilege of working with many individuals that have leaned into their transformation, and their results have been spectacular. And while I understand the power of the work that we're doing together as I coach them through the process, I'm still often surprised to watch the magic unfold. To help you understand how to let leadership transform you, you need to be aware of 4 things. You need to know about, 1, the law of giving and receiving. You need to know what you want out of this life. 3rd, you need to be vulnerable. And 4th, you need to understand the art and science of visioning. So let's talk about leadership and the art of giving and receiving. If you think your employees are not engaged, they don't trust enough, or they lack loyalty, or any other sort of missing, then you probably need to go take a look in the mirror. And as you're looking in the mirror, ask yourself questions like, am I fully engaged with my employees? Do I demonstrate trust in my employees? Do I come across as loyal? Why? Why take the time to go and look at yourself in the mirror? Because there's a chance that you're simply seeing reflected back to you that which you have given your employees. American author, salesman, and motivational speaker Zig Ziglar once said, "Life is an echo. What you send out comes back. What you sow, you reap. What you give, you get. What you see in others exists in you." In his own way, he was talking about this law of giving and receiving. So the law of giving and receiving says, whatever you send out in word or deed, you or whatever you send out in word will indeed will return to you. For example, if you want love, give love. If you want prosperity, help someone become prosperous. If you want happiness or joy, then do something to make someone happy. The catch, you have to give it freely and cheerfully, and it needs to be backed by the right intention. This law also has applications in the workplace and in business. This means that as a leader, whatever you send out through your words, your actions, and your intentions will come back to you. Because this thing called your life, which includes your career, doesn't happen in a vacuum. And every relationship you have with others at work, outside of work, is one of give and take. At work, this includes, and is true of relationships with individuals and your team, as well as the relationship you have with your organization. So if you want the good stuff from your employees, then you need to make sure that you are sending the good stuff out to them to start this cycle, to start the law of giving and receiving. So what does this look like at work? If you give anxiety, you will receive anxiety. If you give optimism, you'll receive optimism. If you give anger and hostility, you will receive anger and hostility. If you give calmness in times of conflict, you will receive calmness. If you aren't engaged, you won't receive engagement. And if you are negative, you'll receive negativity. If you do this, if you follow this law and you give them the good stuff, then the odds of your employees doing the same increases. Does that make sense? Do I need to say it again? Whatever you give to your employees, you will receive from your employees. This law is mentioned in the texts of the big five religions. If you're familiar with the word karma, then you have a basic understanding. And if you just think about it, it makes sense. Has a baby ever smiled at you and you smiled back? Then you get it. If you want to transform through leadership, then you need to lean into this law. Here's how you can start practicing today. These 3 steps I'm giving you are adapted from the Law of Giving Receiving from Chopra.com. Step 1, give each direct report a gift. And when I say gift, I mean something like a compliment, positive thoughts, but let them hear it. Receive, step 2 is receive with gratitude. Receive everything that life has to give you. It could be a compliment. It could be something gorgeous in nature. It could be a physical gift, but you have to be able to receive it. Step 3, give caring, love, and appreciation to everyone you encounter. Wish everyone happiness, joy, and laughter. So let's go a little bit in depth with this. Giving something daily, it could be a smile, it could be a credit that you could give as a gift. Sure, no money's passing hands, but it's simple things like this that work. So a smile, just think about that. That can get the law of giving and receiving started. Smiling is contagious. Remember I mentioned that baby? It's one of the easiest things that you can do, and yet it is a meaningful gift, and it will activate the law of giving and receiving. According to an article by Ding Li titled, "What's the Science Behind a Smile?" It says, when our smiling muscles contract, they fire a signal back to the brain, stimulating our reward system and further increasing our level of happy hormones or endorphins. In short, when our brain feels happy, we smile. We smile and our brain feels happier. Now, what about crediting? It's the science of positive feedback, and anyone can learn how to do it properly. A scientifically sound credit consists of 4 parts. There's a general reference. There's a specific example. There's a personal quality and a resulting benefit. The general reference lets people know that something amazing is coming. Good job on that presentation. Second, the specific example, I loved what you shared on conflict resolution. And the third part, the quality, your attention to the science was great, and the resulting benefit, our team will be better for this. And that's just something simple you can do. Next is receiving with gratitude. I have a question. How well do you receive compliments? What about gifts or assistance? Do you try to push these things to the side, or do you accept them with gratitude? If you struggle to accept them, I'm going to encourage you to express gratitude and take them, because gratitude is magical. Gratitude is connected to happiness and improved interpersonal relationships, both at work and at home. It improves your health, and it builds commitment from others, personally and professionally. So say thank you and let others know how they're positively impacting your life. Do this, and your employees will begin to do the same. In an article by Positive Psychology, a quote says, when we express gratitude and receive the same, our brain releases dopamine and serotonin. And these are two crucial neurotransmitters responsible for our emotions, and they make us feel good. They enhance our mood immediately, making us feel happy from the inside. And so it's not happiness that brings gratitude. It's gratitude that brings happiness. The third part, give care, affection, appreciation, and love freely to your employees. Think about the power of some of the most well-known and well-quoted leaders, the Dalai Lama, Martin Luther King Jr., Mother Teresa, and Mahatma Gandhi. The amount of power they held and still hold is based not on selfishness, but on caring for others. Caring for others, it turns out, is a superpower. If you can extend authentic, heartfelt caring for your employees, then you're on a good path to activating and circulating the law of giving and receiving. And this caring can be silent. It comes from your heart and it goes straight to theirs. One way to put this in action is by simply wishing every employee happiness when you see them. That's it. Or if you want something a little more formal, here's a daily exercise that should help you get started. And I suggest doing this every morning before you engage with anyone from work. And it only takes a few minutes to complete per employee or team member. All you have to do is close your eyes and visualize your employee. Once you see them, and then feel them, just sit there a little longer. Picture them smiling, and then say in your mind or out loud the following statements 3 times. May you have happiness. May you have joy. May you have laughter. May you be free from suffering. The law of giving and receiving, a simple yet powerful practice that will transform you as you lead others. The next part is being able to be clear. I'm talking about fearlessly clear about what you want in this precious life. Leadership requires an immense amount of energy, and you need clarity to direct that energy where you want it to go. Without a little bit of clarity, then you may end up wasting your energy on the wrong things and in the wrong areas of your life. This may lead to you showing up to work in less than ideal shape and state of mind. When you are clear on what you want out of your life, your entire being is infused with an amazing amount of energy that serves not only your life, but the lives of those around you. This includes those that work for and with you. When you are clear about what you want in this precious life, including your career, you will show up in a more powerful way. You will feel your personal and leadership presence grow. When you are clear, you will show up with the right amount of positivity. You'll show up with the right amount of assertiveness as opposed to aggressiveness. You'll show up with the right amount of accountability for your employees and heartfelt compassion. You'll show up with the right amount of co-creation and collaboration instead of competitiveness. However, if you fail to find the courage to be fearlessly clear on what you want in your life, then you may inadvertently do harm to yourself and others. A leader that lies to himself or herself about what they want will unconsciously lie to their employees, their clients, and more, even if they have the best intentions and strive to be honest. Everybody, including those you lead, has hopes and dreams. However, few are willing to admit what's really sitting in their heart because they are afraid to look at the gap that exists between where they are currently and what they prefer to have in life. For many, admitting your hopes and dreams, your true ones, can feel scary, or some might say selfish, but it's not. It's truly not. In fact, it's the opposite. When you take the time to freely admit what you want from this precious life, and you discover this beautiful gap, you've then opened yourself up to receive, and it's within this gap that magic happens. It's within this gap that transformation occurs. If this gap is large enough and you're in a place of discomfort, negativity, or confusion, how you interact and engage and how you communicate, coach, and mentor will come from a place of lack. And if it's from a place of lack, especially unconscious lack, lies of omission, misunderstandings, and hazy truths will come. It's not intentional. It's just something that happens when there is a lack of clarity and you aren't conscious of the gap. It's a symptom, if you will, of you not being fully honest with yourself and ultimately those around you. And because you bring your whole self to work, even though many try to compartmentalize work and life, you have to be clear on your whole self. You have to be clear on your whole self to show up honestly for yourself and those you serve. The final part is the power of clarity. As a leader, if you're not clear, you can't enroll others into your vision. It may be harder than necessary to make things happen, which means that you're more than likely to struggle to experience success. In 2011, I was diagnosed with colon cancer. Needless to say, my life shifted dramatically in a short period of time. About 6 months after my diagnosis, I met with my gastroenterologist, and she encouraged me to find a really good practitioner. Reluctantly, I agreed, and I asked her who she'd recommend, and she said that she didn't have an opinion. Now, obviously, that's not the answer I was looking for. I wanted something more concrete. I was looking for a name, a specific name. Feeling a little let down, I pulled out a strategy that my brother taught me and reframed the question. And I asked her, if you were me and in my shoes and had to choose a doctor, who would you go to? And it worked. She had a clear answer to my clear question. And she ended up giving me the number for a phenomenal physician. I got extremely clear about what I wanted, and she in turn was able to answer the question and give me what I wanted. And the same can be said about the way you lead and actually all areas of your life. The clearer you are about what you want from life, the easier and faster it will show up for you. And the more clarity you have combined with the emotional connection you have to your choices will free you up to be and have more meaningful conversations with your employees. If you can't admit what you want out of life, then you can't truly connect with your employees, which means you can't truly engage them. Like your employees, as a leader, you can't truly separate work life from other parts of your life. Everything that makes you, you shows up at work. Sure, you may be able to stuff aspects down and ignore them for a while, but they're still there. Pretending it doesn't exist or impact your work actually slows down your development and growth as a leader and as a human. Leadership, what I like to call superhuman leadership, is born out of authenticity, self-confidence, and a foundation of wholeness. It starts with admitting or even discovering your big why for work, your big why for leadership, and ultimately your end game, or better stated, your big why for your entire life. You have to take all of this into consideration to move forward with power and grace. And to help you really get to the bottom of this, I invite you to answer this question. right before you take your last breath, how would you answer the question, why is my life a success? Once you have a larger sense of the way you want to be by answering this question, you can then dive into other areas of your life. You can level up this exercise by using a tool like the Wheel of Life. This will help you see where you are now and where you want to be in increments, all based on your definition of a life of success. You will find that coming from this clarity and personal definition of success will help guide you as you make everyday decisions within your own life. And it will guide you as you interact with those and lead those you lead at work. Knowing what you want out of life and understanding your intentions in the areas that are represented by the Wheel of Life will help you create boundaries that make it easy for you to operate within your own personal boundaries, which some have referred to your zone of genius. This genius area, this sweet spot, is where you will perform at your highest and be able to add the most value to your life. So by simply defining success and going through the Wheel of Life process, you'll be in a good place. This will help you say no when you need to say no, and you'll be able to say it without guilt. And you'll be able to then say yes with integrity and confidence. So take the time to define what you want out of your precious life, and you will be well on your way to leaning into the journey of transformation through leadership. But what if I don't want to identify what I want out of life? That's a question I get a lot of times. It sometimes feels like a waste. Well, unless you're some type of robot, then your everyday life impacts how you show up at work and vice versa. The same is true of your employees. You've seen it. Every day your employees bring energy from what happens outside of work to work. Some are better than others at transitioning and putting on a different hat, but there's always some sort of leakage or seepage into work, and you are no different. So sure, you could skip this step. However, you will also skip the power of a true transformation. So the third piece on our list, vulnerability and leadership. If you can't be vulnerable, then you're not coachable. And as a leader, this is a death sentence to your ability to lead people well, and possibly a death sentence to your career. I don't know about you, but I was raised to hide my weaknesses from others. For my parents and the times they grew up in and the times they raised me, being vulnerable in their eyes wasn't necessarily the safest thing in the world. As a result, I struggled with asking for help and getting meaningful feedback from others. And up until the day that I began to open up and let others in, it was holding back my career and my ability to make the type of impact I wanted to make in the world. Leading others isn't meant to be a lonely existence where you are feared or exalted and so high up that others can't tell you or won't tell you the truth. And without being able to open yourself up and get real feedback, that's what can happen. Take the parable of the emperor has no clothes. Published in 1837 by Hans Christian Andersen, The Emperor's New Clothes tells the story of an emperor obsessed with his wealth. He's obsessed with his clothing and appearances and easily gets swindled by two con artists. They tell the emperor that they can create a set of clothing that only the wise people of his kingdom can see. And then they begin to put on this amazing show, setting up looms and pretending that they're creating an outfit worthy of the wise. Once they are done constructing the outfit, they show it to the emperor. They present him with this new set of clothing, which he can't see, but he won't admit because that would indicate that he is not wise. They pretended to put it on him, and he still can't see anything. He can't feel it. When they ask how he likes it, he raves how much he loves it. And he then turns around and asks those around him how it looks. Those around him, not wanting to look stupid, tell him it looks fantastic, where in fact, he is naked as the day he was born. He receives so much yesing, and how many of you receive yesing? But he receives so much that he decides to throw a parade in his new garments. He proudly walks and struts down the street, and he's positive that only the wise can see. People are like, they're telling him, look good, he's confident. Finally, a young boy with no filter shouts out, the emperor has no clothes. And as you can imagine, everybody laughs. But it didn't have to be that way. Not if the emperor had, at any time in his life, demonstrated that he was open to receiving feedback, that he was coachable. If he hadn't been surrounded by yes men and yes women, his entire life and his naked exhibition down the street might have turned out differently. He might have received feedback that would have been helpful. Instead, his lack of vulnerability put him in a bad spot. And while you'll probably not go on a parade naked down the streets because you got tricked by some fashionistas that sold you invisible clothes, your lack of vulnerability may do you harm in other ways. So many leaders try to keep a super professional image. They are overly concerned about what they should share and what they should keep private. According to Brené Brown, vulnerability is the birthplace of innovation, creativity, and change. Vulnerability helps you change. Vulnerability helps you evolve. Leaders that are vulnerable are open to receiving feedback in its many different forms, including feedback from direct reports. It could be psychological assessments or awareness tools, as well as the people that are around them that they trust. And you know what? We can also include reflection into this. Being vulnerable also looks like opening yourself up to your employees. Going back to the law of giving and receiving, if you open up to your employees, then they will open up to you. This will do a lot to build rapport between you and others, and your relationship gets stronger. If you find feedback or receive feedback from others and you determine that it's true, you can really dive in deeper and get to the heart of the matter, and people can be a part of your change. You have to be willing to ask for help. Being vulnerable in a way allows you to learn and grow faster than you ever could on your own. When you ask for help, you're also demonstrating to others that you trust them. It also encourages them to ask you for help or request help and insight, because it breeds more trust and growth. Without vulnerability, true self-awareness is forfeited for a superficial view of who you are, and you miss out on getting the most out of your life. Now, if you're like some of my clients, you may be a tad bit concerned about keeping things separate, keeping some things private. And that is true. Some things are not appropriate for work. And I would agree, keep those things. But there's so many things about your life that you can share that are appropriate. And my guess is probably about 75% of your life. And to ignore it, to not share it, is a disservice. As you start to request feedback, as you start to share with others, be more vulnerable, you will find that you are creating these powerful relationships of two and of a group. You will not regret it. The fourth and final component is in this transformation is visioning. We have the power to create reality with just our thoughts. Basically, the way that you think affects the way that you feel. The way you feel affects the way you act. And the way you act affects the way people react and respond to you. If you don't take the time to vision what an amazing day at work looks like, or an amazing week at work looks like, heck, let's even break it down to what an amazing meeting at work looks like, then you may not get the results that you're looking for. Being able to see that which yet exists is true power. How does someone throw a fabulous event like a wedding, a quinceañera, a graduation party, or a corporate event? They do it by first thinking about it, imagining what they want. They create the vision in their mind, and that vision begins to become a reality. The ability to vision what you would like to happen is an important skill, and every leader should make it a part of their toolbox. Now, you might be thinking, all this is a little woo-woo, and maybe some of it is. However, there is scientific evidence behind the concept, especially when you start looking into the science of performance training. Whatever is going on inside of your head has everything to do with how well you end up performing. That was said by D.C. Gonzalez, The Art of Mental Training. Every single day, elite athletes take their performance to the next level by training from the neck up. And as leaders, you can do the same. By mentally practicing and replaying your interactions with your employees, completing a specific task, leading a meeting, navigating a conflict, or successful outcome to a negotiation, you can make sure that all of your ninja training comes out exactly when you need it. And to successfully train your imagination and change necessary behaviors, you must know yourself and where you stand, right here and right now. And you need to know where you are trying to go. We also know through science that the brain cannot tell the difference between something that is vividly imagined and something that is real. D.C. Gonzalez also said, one should never look where one does not wish to go. This means that whatever you imagine or visualize will happen. You will externalize it and it will be made real, good or bad. It's coming at you. What do you want to come at you while you lead others? What do you want to invite to you each and every day at work? I know of a leader who was afraid she couldn't find a competent person to fill a certain position. The position directly reported to her, and there was a dotted line relationship to another executive. She pictured in her mind that she would be ignored by the employee and that the employee and other executive would form a super tight bond. She also knew that because of the push and pull between she and the other executive, in short order, the employee would quit. And that's exactly what happened. Within a 3-year period of time, she selected and hired 6 or 7 people for the same role. Her thoughts became true. She was the victim of her own powerful imagination. The story she told herself over and over again came true. What about you? Have there been stories that you told over and over again, and have you seen them come to fruition? Have you had opinions about a person or a situation and how an interaction would come true? The chances are high that your answer is yes. And with that answer lies an opportunity for you to change how you experience life at work and the people that you engage with on a regular basis. It's an opportunity for you to start visioning and imagining the best and allowing and creating the space for others to show up as their best. Because if you keep in your mind a negative view of how someone appears, then they have to show up that way. And you're not creating the space for them to show up any other way. Your mind will continually look for the proof that you were right. And that's not fair to you. It's not fair to your employee. And it's not fair to your organization. So I invite you to change that way of thinking and embrace what I call the art and science of visioning. If you can do this, you will truly transform your life and the lives of those around you. So we see, to transform through leadership, to lean in, we must be able to train our ability to visualize and honor the law of giving and receiving. A leader that mentally trains to see their employees in themselves performing at their best brings to their lives the best performance and expression of competency possible. And it doesn't stop with work. It bleeds through all areas of life. Leadership is designed to transform your life from the inside out. It gives you the perfect opportunities to be confronted with mirrors that show you your true thoughts, feelings, and beliefs. And if you want to use this as an opportunity to become more than you ever thought you could ever be, I invite you to embrace the law of giving, receiving. I invite you to take a look at your life and be honest about what you want, fearlessly honest. I invite you to be vulnerable and open yourself up for feedback and connection. And finally, I invite you to practice the art and science of visioning. You have the opportunity to transform yourself through leadership. Let the transformation happen. Consciously step into the journey and see what happens. I think that you will be amazed.